hip hop, hip hop, hip hop, hip
Bars is back.
hip hop,
Sam
hip
and
hop,
oh God, lost.
Just at the time. So it's just, I think that's been the saving grace, is that you can actually research and realize that all these lies. I mean, this is a man that had off and on for 10 years FBI, people looking into him. I don't know anyone that for 10 years secretly, the FBI is looking into them here and there, where they're not going to find something on this man in that way. Especially with the amount of employees that he has, the huge vastness of Neverland in general. They were looking for anything, and they would have put him away for anything. I mean, the way they raided that ranch was almost like a drug bust. It was almost like a cartel, like they were taking down some foreign cartel person. They had helicopters, they had cameras everywhere. And so it was set up that way. And then so he went through hell and back. And I think that his fans have been on this journey. There's some of the not only smartest people, but advocates for justice, I would say. And they know everything about the case. They know, page numbers. They know years, dates, everything. They kind of help me out as in the same term. But you can't they call Michael Jackson fans like loony or advocates. No, these people have studied the cases. Mm-hmm. They've understood what's at stake. They know it backwards and forwards. They're not blindly following someone. What they're doing is they're advocates for justice. And so I'm so appreciative of the fans and in general, because they've kept me going in that way. Because without the fans, I'd be just yelling in the wind, basically.
Yeah. Appreciate that. And my last question will be, I know we got a limited amount of time, will be to the people who are doubting, Michael Jackson, your nephew, could you tell us who Michael Jackson was to you, for all the people who are doubting?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because I'm old enough in a way, and also removed enough at certain times to understand why certain people feel the way they do, because that was the way the media portrayed him for 20, 30 years in that way. It's almost like if you have a friend, and through that friend, you hear about this other person that you've never met, but you hear all these bad stories about him, and then you run into him later, and you're like, oh, he wasn't that bad. He wasn't, anything what my friend had said he was. Well, the media is what did that to these people. And so I think there's just so many misconceptions about Michael Jackson. But for me, he was, and to people that have avidly defended him, which is completely different than all these other cases that people want to throw and lump him into. He has people that are defending him, people that worked with him, people that ex-employees, obviously family members, but even friends. All these people are defending him. They're standing behind him. And I think that's the difference, is because they know his true heart and they know him, and they've been around the other people that have accused him, and they know their true heart and they know them. And so I think for me in general, my uncle was I always like listening to like what people like Akon or Babyface would say, because, it would be a different experience. The Babyface story about him asking Halle Berry, asking for Halle Berry's phone number was something that I always loved, because that's something that I knew he had a crush on her back then, but I never knew that story about him asking someone, for the phone number. That's kind of, right up in there. Like, and then there's footage, I guess, when he met her, and he's talking to all these other people, and he sees Halle Berry out of the corner of his eye, and he makes a beeline right for her. Like, he actually stops talking to those people. And it's the funniest thing I've seen, because it was like, I'm going to take my chance to make sure she knows who I am in that way. And it's just who my uncle was. Pure joy, pure fun. I know I'm family, so people are going to be like, oh, well, he's supposed to say that. No, I wouldn't put my reputation on the line, first of all, to do that. Like, I'm not going to defend someone that I think has done something wrong. Anyone that knows me knows that. But by the same token, I think that it's someone that, and I understand it because he understood it. When how do I say this? I can say it. When you're Black and you're doing great things, you become a threat to certain people in that way. And he knew that. And he knew that he was going to break glass ceilings. He knew he was going to do certain things that other people couldn't do. And instead of beating him fair and square, they cheated. They tried to tear his legacy down. They're still trying to tear his legacy down. They're still trying to call other people the king of pop. They're still trying to beat him any way they can, and as opposed to beat him on his records and beat him on his music in that way. And so they're cheating basically. And so I would just say, just do your homework. Like, just take the time. If you ever did watch Leaving Neverland, you gave 4 hours of your life to watch that, give 20, 30 minutes to learn the truth. It's out there. It's completely out there. And it's backed by facts and court documents, as opposed to Leaving Neverland, which is backed up by hearsay of two people that are suing the estate for money.
Yeah. Definitely appreciate your perspective. Appreciate your time. Let the people know.
I don't want to sound angry or anything. Cause I'm not. Yeah. I'm actually. This has been a great year.
Yeah.
The karma train has been making a bunch of stops here and there. Which is I mean, I don't want to call people out, but it's been making a bunch of stops. But I do think there's something about. I saw it with Kobe Bryant in that way, in terms of, when you've done such great things, they can't wait to tear down that legacy. Yep. And the problem they had with Kobe is they jumped too early. People were still feeling hurt. And so they jumped too early. If they would have given it 5-10 years, they would have done the same thing to Kobe Bryant, and Snoop had to jump in there and set them straight. And look what they did to Snoop. So I don't like any of that stuff. I really don't. I see it a mile away. And it frustrates me. It really does, because they have us sometimes fighting within each other, in that way, instead of, and they're throwing stuff to instigate it in that way, and so but I can see things from a different perspective. That's the only thing.
Great point. Well, Andy, we can go down a rabbit hole with that one, boy. You brought up.
I know, but I mean, as I said, and I'm thankful for channels like you and podcasts like you that basically will hear the other side and give that opportunity. Because myself and Brandy, my cousin Brandy, trust me, we went to a bunch of other networks and stuff like that, and they shut us down completely in that way. They didn't want to know the truth.
You always have an open door here. You know that. Anytime I text, you text, I'm glad that you text right back, and it's always love.